Hey folks, welcome back to another edition of Griz Tracks. I'm AJ Mazzolini here with the Missoulian.
And I'm Kyle Sample, a fellow sports reporter at the Missoulian.
The Griz are coming off a victory, their first one in almost a month at homecoming against Northern Arizona last week. 23-14 victory, trying to get the ship righted a little bit. Lot to like from that game, and still some things to worry about, I guess, though.
Yeah, offense got out to a quick start.
Right.
The defensive line controlled things. And
really controlled things.
Yeah, and other than that, run game kind of produced itself.
Right. Kind of showed up a little bit. Still some issues in the red zone, but we'll get to that sort of thing. The Griz were able to jump up 10-0 in about 3-4 minutes of game time. Coach Stitt says he wants to take the ball every single time from the coin toss from now on and just try and get that kind of a lead. They play so much better when they're ahead. It opens up a lot of things. Actually can throw it around a little and can get the run game going. And we saw that last week, 195 yards on the ground.
Yeah, and I actually really like that philosophy of taking the ball and just going and scoring and trying to put some pressure on the other team. I think it's one that not a lot of coaches use. Mm-hmm. I think it's kind of in the same vein that not a lot of coaches go for fourth and short.
Right.
They maybe should do it more often, and I think we're going to see both of those things, especially with Coach Stitt.
Right, that's Bob Stitt's style. Although he'd been told basically whenever you're at home and watching Grizzly, you want to put them on defense first because of that crowd noise. Get the crowd really into it from the beginning. And he was kind of going against his instincts by doing that, it seems like. And so we won't be seeing that anymore. Griz win the toss, Griz take the ball, Griz going to try and score. On the other side of the ball, though, you mentioned the defense. Tyrone Holmes had just a monster day. 4 sacks, almost 5, they were counting a couple of times. And the Griz had 8 total sacks as that poor quarterback, Case Cookins, was just running for his life.
Yeah, and it was really interesting to watch what they were doing with their defensive line and their coverage rotations and stuff and trying to maybe confuse Cookins. And It really seemed like it worked because they got 5 sacks in the first quarter.
Yeah, and that's all without defensive end Derek Crittenden, who was out with a knee injury. They had his replacement, Ryan Johnson, actually had a sack. Very first snap of the game for him. So not bad. Welcome to starting rotation, basically.
Right. And we'll see if they can do it again with UC Davis. I mean, they have a more experienced quarterback, so maybe he'll be able to figure out some of those things, but then again, maybe not.
Right, yeah, and again, that game coming up this week is in California. The Griz take on UC Davis, 2 o'clock Mountain Time kickoff down in Davis, California. And it's going to be only the second start in maroon for Chalich, quarterback for the Griz as well. Had a pretty nice debut last week. He did have 1 pick, receiver fell down, so not really his fault on that one. Some deep balls that look nice, a touchdown, over 200 yards. You know, that's kind of exactly what you want from a quarterback, especially in that position coming in for Brady Gustafson.
Yeah, and he just seemed comfortable. Mm-hmm. Like, he didn't seem like he was rushed very often or maybe needed to figure out what he was doing. It just sort of seemed like he was able to take the reins and kind of do what they expected him to do.
Right, a big difference in just a week of practice time, too. When he came in for Gustafson at the end of the Liberty game, he had happy feet. He couldn't see his first receiver. It looked like he was trying to tuck it down and move, and he was kind of getting eaten alive in the backfield. So we'll see if he can progress even more now that he's got a second full week of practice under his belt. Although the Davis Davis pass defense is kind of been their strong suit. They're only giving up 150-some yards a game, which will be a weird dynamic with this Montana offense. It wants to throw it all the time, basically.
Right, yeah. They're, I think, second in the Big Sky Conference in pass defense yards given up, and somewhere in the middle of the pack in defensive efficiency, but maybe that's because they give up bigger plays and not a lot of yards.
Right, and then the run defense for them has kind of been an issue as well, which will be another kind of interesting thing to watch and see if the Grizzly run game can continue to mature and show up again. Davis allowing 225-ish yards a game on the ground, which is a whole lot. That'll soak up the clock too, and kind of keep the ball away from them because they do have some pretty dynamic playmakers. Ben Scott, quarterback, he threw for 4 touchdowns and 250 yards last year in Missoula when Davis was here playing the Griz. And he's got some pretty impressive weapons on the outside. A guy named Ramon Vargas, who was all Big Sky Conference last year. And then this new guy, Martin, I believe, is Chris Martin is his name. He's got 4 touchdowns and averaging almost 25 yards a catch.
Yeah, and we'll see if they can kind of buck the tradition that they've had of falling behind early in games. They've shown a propensity of doing that throughout the season, but maybe this is different. Maybe their second Big Sky game, they settle down and maybe that offense starts to click a little more.
Right, and against a team that's 0-4 like UC Davis is, this is a good area of the Griz schedule to try and pick up some wins. They're going to be hosting Weber State right after that, and then North Dakota, which started really hot with a win over an FBS team. It looked a little sluggish since then, and they're going to need to get some wins because there's a whole other gauntlet of their schedule coming up down the road against some of those big boys.
Yeah, they get, what I think they get, Portland State, then Idaho State, then Eastern Washington, then Montana State, all back to back to back to back, I think. So, yeah, they really need to take advantage of this stretch in their schedule, and hopefully they can get out. For their sake, they can get to a 4-0 start in conference.
Yeah, and certainly give themselves a little bit of a head start. But again, that all is going to start this Saturday, 2 p.m. kickoff against UC Davis down in California. Make sure to pick up your copy of the Missoulian every day this week to stay on top of all the Griz coverage as we prepare for the game. And go online to Mazzoulian.com for live updates throughout Saturday's game. Thanks for tuning in with us again this week.